name is Maxine Mackintosh. I'm the chair of Healthtech Women. I'm also a data science PhD at the moment. That's my day job. Healthtech Women is my night, weekend, early morning, lunch break job. And what Healthtech Women does is it encourages more women to get involved in what's going to be the future of healthcare. So health tech at the moment. Opposed to spending 15 minutes talking to you about what a network does, and I think most of you are part of networks. This itself is one of these networks. I think it'd be more interesting to talk to you about, again, these high-level changes that are happening in the healthcare system. So we're sort of obsessed with this crowdsourcing idea, the power of the crowd. So this is everything from Uber, so you're finding out your locations of your taxis, to starting your company on Kickstarter, but also quite specifically to healthcare. So there's an organisation called CrowdNet, which literally crowdsources your diagnosis for people in America who can't afford their healthcare. So crowdsourcing is pervasive across most sectors at the moment, and I think this is very much a byproduct of the internet, which is it's one of its big priorities, with the fact it's democratizing access and information. But the fact is that with all these crowdsourcing elements, the crowd isn't really the crowd. I'm being a bit facetious here. They are not all male, pale, and stale men in suits, but usually disproportionately, it's a self-selecting group of individuals. So let's look at this room. Average age is probably around 30. We're all probably have gone to university or at least some form of higher education. We're all here because we love health innovation and digital health. Actually, we're not really the problem. The problem are people who have much higher needs, people on the street, people with chronic diseases, and people who are elderly. And so usually the problem with crowdsourcing is that the sample is not really demonstrative of the population. So we've kind of got the idea that diversity is important, and it used to be diversity because you kind of have to. You've got to have your black and ethnic minorities, you've got to have your diverse religions, you've got to have your LGBT, you've got to have your women. But the rhetoric has changed somewhat, so now we've understood that actually when we bring people together who have a diverse background, a diverse range of experiences, we make cooler, more amazing, more innovative babies. And now that's being translated into some fantastic returns. This has certainly changed the discussion somewhat around diversity. But diversity is quite a laden word. So we sent out an email that we tried two different arms. One of them had diversity in the subject, the other one didn't. They were exactly the same emails. And the number of people who opened the diversity email was a third of the number of people who opened the other one. And I think it's because you read this word and you just think, diversity again. It's this thing that HR bugs you about. And actually, it's not really about diversity now. It's certainly healthcare. It's much more about inclusiveness. It's about getting people involved. People from all walks of life. So again, I'm quite happy Tom had a nice little graph. It's quite nice to do things at a macro level. I did a social science master's, so this is my way of shoehorning and legitimising my social science master's. But these are some of the big things that describe the dynamics that happen in healthcare. So first of all, information asymmetry. Basically that means that you go to your doctor because they did a medical degree, and they know tons about healthcare and you know nothing. And this is what drives something called the principal-agent problem. The principal-agent problem is when your doctor is your agent and therefore acting on your behalf, acting in your best interest based on the information you've given them. And this is what makes healthcare fundamentally a defunct market. It means it goes against every single normal economic market that exists out there. It's because there's huge imbalance in information between you and your clinician. And this basically drives this very paternalistic health dynamic. Now the rhetoric has changed a little bit, and it's more about patient empowerment, about co-design of healthcare together. But fundamentally, our healthcare system is still built on quite a paternalistic structure. I mean, in the olden days, your doctor used to be a revered member of society, the most educated and richest. I'm not saying that hasn't changed a lot, but the point is that there's certainly been a rebalance in the medical relationship. And then thirdly is social movement theory. Now this is when it gets really fluffy for people who are very tech snobs. And this is basically how you drive population change. You drive real social movement. And this is the crux of this concept of people power health. Wouldn't be a social science degree without a 2x2 matrix. So this is actually about how social movements really happen. So at the moment we're sort of sitting in this grid. So alternative social movements are social movements that affect the individual. It's when you change one little aspect about yourself. So a really good example is if you wanted to quit smoking. That's a type of alternative social movement. Fundamentally, limited change might save you some money, might lower the risk of various diseases, but it's not going to radically change your health. Then from a big population perspective, you've got reformative social movements. So that's when populations look to affect a very specific type of policy within an area, within a part of society. So again, that could be targeting drug laws specifically. Now, at the moment, I think digital health and health technology, as it's sitting on the fringe, is kind of sitting in this limited change area at the moment. Because, we've all got these wearables, so every now and then we look at them and think, done like 10,000 steps or however meant to do. But it doesn't really fundamentally change that much. And again, we're all sitting here talking about digital health, but it hasn't really pervaded most aspects of society. So how do we move from here to there? So redemptive social movements is a real full-body change in the fundamental way you think about your healthcare. So David has usually refers to this as a kind of religious movement, and I think we all here to pray at the altar of digital health. But for most people, this is where you fundamentally have a complete behaviour change in the way you approach your health. So you fundamentally go about your whole healthcare in a preventive manner. And that isn't really within our human psyche at the moment. Then from a public perspective, this is the real crux of powered health. It's the fact that it requires a huge population engagement and fundamentally wanting to change the way society is done. So this is a huge approach, a different approach in the way we look at our healthcare. So at the moment, this bottom quadrant is limited by a few things. So it's limited by the fact we have a specific type of health infrastructure. Our healthcare is based on physical hospitals. Going back to this reactive versus proactive healthcare, you go to your hospital because you are sick. But also a kind of conceptual and cultural attitude towards healthcare. We still depend on various clinicians to provide us with the answers to our health. We still have this information asymmetry, which means we seek out the experts. So the irony herein lies that actually we're not talking about people-powered health. We're talking about a very specific group of people who are powering this at the moment, which is why we're sitting in this slightly limited change when it comes to healthcare. What we really want to do is just hitting humans in general, getting a really accurate snapshot of the population. Because everyone in this room, I'm sure, has at some point been a user of healthcare and will increasingly become a user of healthcare. So as we are all users, and speak to outside this room predominantly at the moment, we should all be the designers in it as well. Well, there's an element of, so health is very personal, and I think that health is a highly demographically, ethnically, culturally determined element. And I think the subtleties and nuances that you see between different populations, and this whole concept of healthcare being N of one, means that you can't really parallel, I think, your healthcare to maybe the way you get from A to B in a car. You can definitely personalise your driving experience. You can say, actually, I want to be able to listen to whatever radio station I want. I want to be able to have seats that are happy with the air, that makes me notice nice and cold, whatever it might be. So I think that everyone's looking to personalise different elements of their health, and therefore you should be actively determining and designing that. And I think given this whole move towards N01, I would say that this would be appropriate in this case. So this photo makes me both happy and very sad. So this is a key for men's lose. So this, I'm just thrilled when I see this because you just don't see it very often. And the reason why this makes me very happy and also quite sad is because this was at a deep learning in healthcare conference. So Healthtech Women report on saying that we're getting no female registrations, we'll give you some discounted tickets, flog them hard. And despite the fact that we were there really pushing this hard out to the network, this was still the result. So obviously I was thrilled because I didn't have to queue for the toilet, but nevertheless, we still have this huge problem with the fact that these events were predominantly attended by men. So this is now the bit about Healthtech Women. So we have a bit of an imbalance in healthcare at the moment. And we get given this figure all the time. People say, you know what, Healthtech Women, you guys are so redundant. 77% of the NHS are female, job offer. And we say, you know, that's true, healthcare is overwhelmingly female. We don't really have an attraction problem in healthcare. Then you start to look at the kind of more granular level. So just you've got to remember that your baseline now is 77%, you're not sitting at 50-50. We've acknowledged that healthcare doesn't have an attraction problem for women. So 85% of nursing directors are women. You might say that's quite high, but that's actually quite an accurate reflection of the ratio in nursing. We're not going to talk about why more men should go into nursing. GPs about balanced. But then on this slide, it's where the numbers start to get a bit worrying when it comes to health innovation in the future of the field. So the ones that particularly stick out to me are the fact that 81% of admin staff are women. The finance directors, medical directors, despite the fact that 56% of doctors in training present are women. then CEOs 40%, given the fact that it's 77, it should be significantly higher than that. And then 68% of HR directors are women. And HR is quite important for driving better ratios in the workplace, but the determinants and drivers of health innovation, they are not. So with all these figures, you have to look a bit more granularly and work out that actually there's still an imbalance which is ubiquitous across most sectors that we see. So why is this a problem in healthcare? So I'm sure a number of you have been reading about these biases within artificial intelligence. And I wanted to talk about this because artificial intelligence has very much become a buzz term in healthcare at the moment. So my two favourite examples were Microsoft's Tay tweets, who became a neo-Nazi, misogynistic arsehole within a couple of hours, and then this beauty contest, which started to negatively vote against women of colour. And people thought, wow, this is terrible, AI is evil. And a lot of these discussions around AI, certainly in AI and healthcare, really centres on these post-apocalyptic scenarios, where we're being overrun in an iRobot sort of way. But actually, I'm much more concerned about some really less glamorous bias sitting with artificial intelligence. So how does artificial intelligence work in terms of bias? So you take a very, very large data set, as big as possible, and usually you take about 80% of that data set, and you write an algorithm that's by your convenience, and you train your algorithm. That means you just feed it lots and lots of data, and the algorithm starts to learn about what the data is doing. It starts to pick up patterns. And then what you do is you unleash that algorithm that you spent a lot of computer energy training onto this 20%, and you see, is that actually quite an accurate reflection? So the problem with this balance is the fact that unless this original data that you train your data set on is exceptionally unbiased, then you're going to basically exacerbate the problems you have originally. So how can you have a biased data set? So let's take, for example, clinical trials, disproportionately running in Caucasian populations. If you train algorithms on Caucasian-based populations for clinical trials, you're going to have a much more self-reinforcing algorithm that's going to start to not pick up adverse events in people not Caucasian, and they're going to start to really compound some of the inefficiencies we have already in those data sets. And this also comes down to the analysis, the way you put them together, the way you select your cohorts. There is a huge amount of work that's now being done in gender bias, in deselecting and coordinating different types of cohorts and different data sets. And the thing about machine learning is that whatever you do in that data set, it just explodes in an exponential manner. So my concern with artificial intelligence in healthcare is that you can start to think about how this might be applied, for example, in clinical trials, but also, say, in patient-clinician interaction. So there's lots of evidence that women interact with healthcare differently to men. If you start to train your algorithm based on those interactions, it's not going to be applicable to men, or vice versa. And you can start to pick up these examples everywhere. So, we've got people-powered health, this big concept, this bottom-up movement. We've got the fact that the crowd usually isn't very demonstrative of the actual crowd. We've got the fact that technology now can possibly exacerbate those limitations in that crowd. So Healthtech Women just looks to address the gender problem, of which we have quite a big one. Overwhelmingly, the NHS is female. If you start to look at medtech, it's between 6 and 25% of women working in the field. So obviously we're going to start to see quite a big skills, knowledge and leadership gap emerging in the future of healthcare. We're only kind of scratching the surface. I was going to put cake, but I thought it was the evening, so we're going to be hungry, so I put onion. But cakes have layers. And it's true, because on the outside we've got gender, and age, and race, and these really kind of crass metrics of what define you as a person. But actually it's the numbers here, which is about personality types, which are Myers-Briggs, which is actually a really important thing. And it's the backgrounds of individuals which determines how they will ultimately use healthcare. But on the gender front, there are some still really obvious barriers we can start to address. And this is what Healthtech Women does. So we run events, we run training, we connect people up, we bring people to speak at fantastic speaker opportunities. We just try and get women into those leadership positions and connect individuals who might not have the confidence or the skills to do so otherwise. But the internet is littered with evidence that there is still a gender problem sitting within healthcare. In research, a fifth of professors are women. This is described as the leaky pipeline. And science is much worse off for the fact that it's losing women at the rate it is. Surgery is still described as an old boys' club. Sorry. And the fact that we have contracts that push through that are openly say that they negatively affect women who are single with children. But with all these things, I think it's not about bashing down the door and saying diversity It's actually about harnessing a much more positive attitude, because people powered health is about driving a social movement. It's about getting everyone and their dog involved in changing the fundamental way we look at healthcare. And I don't think it's very helpful to stand up and tell people you should have more women, you should have more LGBT. But it's actually about changing this kind of status quo, changing what we see, changing the norms of what's around us. And I really like this quotation from Claire Marks. It was with reference to surgery, but I think that this is quite a good way of actually describing Healthtech Women's approach to the gender discussion. If you can't tell people to change their culture, what you have to do is grow the numbers and show the way we can change the culture from within, rather than dictating. So it does require all of us, digital health fanatics, flag bearers, to go out and tell your friends and start to create a social movement around this new model of healthcare. Because otherwise it's just going to sit between us, nerdy, white, middle class people, talking about digital health. And if we're going to change from that limited social change to a radical change, we do something serious.